So this presentation is about Turtle Entertainment. That's the name of the company that has eventually built the Electronic Sports League. It's as well about the rise of electronic sports that has just briefly been described, that we have seen in the last years, in the last 15 years now. And I'm trying to kind of simplify this journey that I have been going through on building this company here in kind of 20, maybe 30 minutes, kind of time-lapse style. So there's lots of details missing, but I hope it gives you kind of the key points. It's also the story of how a crazy idea at the times turned into a billion-dollar business. So how it all began, I'm pretty much a person that was, I guess, as a software developer that I'm by profession, I studied software development, a person that's been all about kind of computers and cables. That is how some of our first LAN events looked like. So we've been connecting computers at home, and we would start to play games on these computers together. This is what an old network card looked like. These things are now all on kind of your chipsets and your computers. At that time, we needed to kind of build them in computers. It was very painful. Windows 95, I think, was the operating system at the time. And this was kind of the next step in evolution, which is really important if you talk about the games that we're playing, because ISDN and kind of modern communication devices on your computer allowed us to not only play in local networks with each other on computers, but now all of a sudden it allowed us to kind of play with people from Germany and France, or French people playing against US people, because now all of a sudden the internet was used to kind of play with each other in computer games. Now, the computer games that I played that really struck me, they looked a little like games that can be described as competitive network multiplayer games. It's a super important term. That's why I've kind of tried to nail down on this here. What is a competitive network multiplayer game? Video games, obviously, that's what we're talking about. I don't need to explain to you what that is. A multiplayer game is a game where several individuals play together in the very same game at one time. Now, in the very past, there was one screen where you would do that. So kind of you had several people, one computer, one screen, and they shared the screen, and they would play together. Now, as networking evolved, the games became networked, which means you have several computers or consoles that are networked together, and there would be people sitting in probably distributed locations still playing the very same game, but they would play it in distributed locations with each other. The adjective competitive here says that these games are played in a competitive kind of setting against each other or with each other. So I am playing against somebody else. 5 people are playing against another 5 people. That in itself was what excited me extremely. And the games that I played at that time, they somehow looked like this here. They actually looked exactly like this here. So what you just saw is Quake World. It is kind of, in my eyes, the inception of networked multiplayer games, games developed by John Carmack, who happened to be today at the forefront of developing virtual reality for Facebook now with Oculus. This person has kind of created that game, and this game was the first one which really had the capacity with a great network code to match people in a real-time environment playing against each other. And the player that played in this match at the time, 1998, 1999, was Lakerman. Lakerman, a Swedish dude, was one of the freaking best players in Quake World. So I would sit at home and I would watch the matches that he played, and I would play the games and try to be as good as he would do, playing with my friends or other competitors. Another game that I want to show you, because
base is under attack.
So I can see question marks all over your faces. That's great. So obviously graphics now are much advanced, which is great. That's how it looked like back in 2000. This was StarCraft Brood War. It was one of the creators of the genres of strategy games, real-time strategy games, where you also played against other people. As you've seen in the game before, there's one guy, he's running around, he's shooting the other guy, and then kind of they score each other, and who shoots the other guy more often wins. In this game here, you have to build a base, you have to defeat the opponent by building more units and overcoming the opponent. Real-time strategy game. This was two of the kind of most important games at the time, and this was the games that inspired me. When I saw those games, two things popped up with me. Number one, and that is what Darren already said, is like, the computer games industry will eat Hollywood. This is so much more entertaining, so much more engaging than anything I see in a kind of a serial programming or kind of in a movie where I can't interact, where I can't get engaged. This is going to eat the entertainment industry. Thank you for saying that that happened. So I knew I need to work with games because A, it's my passion, I love it, and B, it's going to become epic in size. Number two, I felt adrenaline. When I was playing these games, and I was playing against somebody else, I felt an adrenaline rush that I would probably only feel when I was playing, I don't know, badminton with my friends, soccer, or anything else in a competitive environment that was a traditional sport that got me so adrenalized. And I understood that if games become big, if this becomes like 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, something of epic proportions, and at the same time, I am actually training in this, I love to watch it, and I love to compete, and it adrenalizes me, it will become a sport. That was the hypothesis on which I eventually set out to build esports, the definition of electronic sports, sports played on electronic basis, a computer, which is the understanding of competitive multiplayer games as a sport. That's the terms you need to remember to understand what esports effectively is. So what did I do? I set out in 2000 to fund a company. There was one guy here in Berlin, actually. His name is Tobias Engelhardt, a guy that didn't really have a clue about what I was supposed to do. He saw us, he saw our pitch, and he said, like, well, I didn't really understand what you wanted to do, but I knew you were getting the job done. So he invested the first, I think it was 200,000 Deutschmarks at the time, 100,000 euro, into our vision of what we wanted to build, and kind of finally gave us a letter of intent, signed this, and this was a statement that he made in 2009, but he invested actually in 2000, and we finally got the first funding. Now, what did we do then? We found this company, Turtle Entertainment, odd logo for such a company, right? I'm going to explain you with a beer why that is if you're interested. So, building esports is what we set out to do. We wanted to build a company that creates esports. Now, how do you create esports if you believe that there's a new sport, a new sports discipline, or a new kind of universe of sports? You build a lot of assets for that new sport. So what we did is, we came up with an esports magazine. We came up with kind of renting out the infrastructure. Imagine a virtual stadium. We rented out these stadiums to players because they needed those to kind of play competitively. We were going out to build an online league, a website where you could actually kind of sign up and kind of find other people that would be interested in playing with you and hopefully being on the same skill level than you. So we were basically a matchmaking platform for professional gamers. We also set out to build the first events. So kind of we got people together, we linked them up in these kind of networks that you saw before. We had them playing together and tried to make it kind of an event that would be exciting for others to watch. 15 people at the time. But that was really not going anywhere particularly. So we tried a lot of different ways on getting a business out of it, but it never really took off in a way that we could say like, oh, here's something happening. We're actually having a profitable business model and we're going somewhere. It was just not happening at the time. It was long years, 4 years, where we tried to iterate on all these issues, on all these kind of business opportunities, on all these projects that we have, but we really never came to the point that we found like, this is it. We found one first believer though, and that's important to mention, that was Intel. Intel, you certainly know for being the world's leading manufacturer for microprocessors in the first place. This company found us in 2002, and since then is sponsoring and supporting everything that we do, because they understood at the time already how esports will impact not only their business, but kind of the computer industry in general. Esports, particularly what they do with the ESL, is the biggest ever and longest sponsorship, global level, that Intel has ever done. The longest other sponsorship was Formula 1, that was about 5 years, continuously. The biggest one was esports, actually, and is esports, because they're actually ramping it up still. So, having that said, this was the first years, and they were painful, and we were feeling a bit like...
I don't get it. Phase 1, collect underpants. Phase 2, Phase 3, profit. Oh, I get it. No, you don't, fat ass.
So we were feeling like, yeah, we're doing this, right? There's esports. It's going to be kind of success. We're going to make money with it. It's going to be big. But whatever we did, it kind of didn't turn to profit, right? We didn't actually know what to do to kind of turn it into a profitable business. Do we need to build a league? Do we need to kind of build a magazine? Do we kind of need to manage talent? We didn't really know. So we believed somehow in 2000 that this was the LAN Access Arena in Cologne. Many of you should know that, kind of great stadium, about 15,000 capacity. We believed in 5 years from now, in 2005, we're actually going to be in there, and on the very top left on the stage, there's going to be 2 computer gamers playing games, and there's all going to be the folks that are watching them. That's what I believed in 2000. Now, the reality, unfortunately, looked about this in 2003, that was. It didn't look much different in 2005. It was just a nice picture I found. This was a basement in Cologne of an internet cafe where we did broadcasts, and we had the best professional e-gamers, and we had about 50 people coming. But they came regularly. And that simple fact encouraged us to continue. And they came more and more. But it was still not really that many people. So what we did is we found we're onto something. Somehow it works. We believe in our vision. We're not making money at all. We're struggling. But let's continue. We narrowed down our business. We narrowed down and we dropped these services, the magazine, and we focused just on the league, on the electronic sports league, and on the production, the video production and event production part. And some numbers, just for context, this is the website visitors on our webpage that have been growing up until 2008 to about 1 million visitors on the web, unique users on the webpage a month, so there was some growth. We started to stream this stuff, and season 12 was about 2005, 2006-ish, 2014 was 2007, 2008. You could see that the unique users that would watch the events on a video stream, which at that time was very clunky. That was real media. I don't know if anybody remembers. Horrible technology. It was kind of Microsoft, the Windows media player in Microsoft, which was another horrible piece of technology that never really worked. So we used these technologies to broadcast to our audience, which is sitting on their computers, so we need to broadcast it over the internet to their computer in the first place. So the numbers rose, but is 40,000 people watching 5 months of a league really a lot of people? Not yet. The average event visitors, they rose from about 100 in average on an event that we would do in 2004 to about maybe 500 visitors on an event in 2008. So once again, with all this you see, numbers are growing, but look at the time scale. This is 4 or 5 years, and we maybe doubled the numbers, and they're all still on a low level, right? So how do you feel about this? You're now working 8 years on a business, 8 goddamn years. Well, you could have done 3 other startups, and one of them would be much bigger than this one, right? But we didn't give up. We believed still in what we're doing here. So this is a picture from the Pro Series Finals 2008. This is the Köln-Gürzenich. Kölner people know this. It's a bigger venue in Cologne, so it looked already a little more encouraging. About 600, 700, 800 people on the final event there. Starts to look like something that's actually kind of decent in production quality, right? So that was 2008. What did we do next? We placed bigger and bolder bets. So what I was always particularly good in is convincing people and giving me more money to try what I do. So I raised more money, more capital from investors, from people that believed in this kind of esports, and we placed more bets. We expanded the business internationally. We rolled it out in Europe, particularly in European countries. We bought an entire TV station, which is called Giga TV. For the American guys, I always have to say, this was an NBC Universal company before we bought it, because otherwise it doesn't have relevance. In Germany, it has a reputation. It was running in analog cable on free distribution. It was kind of an internet TV station. They covered internet stories and music, kind of a Viva or MTV for internet generation, if you want. So we bought the entire TV station under the premise that, hey, we have this content for a new generation. If we just have a real TV station with distribution on satellite and cable, we're probably going to get to these agencies that are all booking advertisement on the TV stations that don't listen to us when we just tell them that we have these video streams. It didn't work out that well, I can tell you, for many reasons. We also, and we invested about 8 million into buying Giga and trying to push esports into traditional TV. Last but not least, we formed a joint venture in China with a lot of effort, because China was a growing market, very young audience, very kind of affine to computer games in the cities. All these experiments were done. Did we make any profits? not so much. We invested all our cash in experiments. All these were experiments. We still didn't really have a scalable business model in place. Many companies were actually chasing the same vision. We had companies in the US, in Asia, in South Korea. They all tried to do this thing. Most of them collapsed. They kind of didn't figure out the business model either. They went out of business, but they didn't really never make it to a business. Now, how encouraging is that for you? If you stand there, like now 9 or 10 years in, the people that are trying it like you do all fail. You don't have a scalable business, but we still wanted to continue. The games industry itself was continuing to boom at the same time. You heard some of those numbers. The growth in these years was unprecedented. Mobile started to come up, touch devices came in, social games on Facebook were becoming big. The games industry was booming at the time with ever new audiences. We were not. And we were really questioning ourselves continuously, are we wasting our lifetime? What then happened was all what led to what Darren said in the beginning. And I want to explain to you what these things were that changed in 2010 and 2015. I need to hold it like this, I think. Yeah. So, first, free to play. Who knows what free to play is? Fingers up. Free to play. Free to play. Fingers up, really up, that I can see who knows. Not that many, actually. So, give you some context. How computer games were sold initially, just like music in a way, or a movie, is that you produce a game with a budget of $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 million US. You push it into a retail store, which was the gatekeeper for anything success in games, and then you would sell it for 3 or 4 months, and then the game would actually be dead, and you would be doing a new game, just like you would do it with a Hollywood movie in a way, right? So this is how your lifetime cycle, your sales cycle for a computer game looked like. Now, if we talk about sports, like how long is football, basketball, soccer living? For decades. So if you would compare that with a computer game, you would need to say a computer game as a sport should also be played for years, if not decades. Now, with this business model in computer games, it didn't work because the developers of the games didn't have an interest in actually having a game being played a year later because they didn't make money with it. They wanted the game to go away so that they can release a new game. This was not compatible with what we believed is esports, because esports needs a game to live for years. Now, free-to-play is something that you have to pay attention to if you didn't yet, because it is the one business model for mobile apps, for music now, for kind of what games do in particular. It works in a way that you offer your product for free. That's what you see with most of your apps on your smartphones that you have. You download them for free. And what you would do then is you would enjoy what you experience, and you would unlock new features over time. And what that does is it kind of the free-to-play business model scales in the long tail. So people would actually start when a game has traction, people like it, they would make money as they go, the audience grows. If people stick around, they make more money. Now, if you now connect the dots, what we do is we keep people playing a single game for a very, very long time. Because it's a sport. People should play that sport for a long time and grow and mature and fans to grow up. With this business model, all of a sudden, it involved the developers and publishers and made them kind of a synergetic partner that actually started to benefit from what we do. They realized, hey, we're actually making more money with what you do. You do that more event, you start that TV stream, kind of you get the teams and the players to play this game, and there's all of a sudden it looks like a sport. We're making more money with that. So the free-to-play model pushed the developers to support esports and to develop games that would leverage esports. The second part that happened, which the right logo most of you know, the left one maybe not so much. The left one, who knows Twitch? Fingers up. Oh, surprisingly well. So Twitch, video games streaming platform, live streaming platform. You go there, you see other people playing games. More than 50% of the content on Twitch is esports. So I told you before, we've been using Real Media and Windows Media Server before. That was technologies that didn't scale. You had to download the clunky player. It never worked. Codecs needed to be downloaded. It all crashed. It was painful. YouTube and Twitch commoditized that experience. Now, all of a sudden, it was extremely easy for viewers to open a website and just look a stream, watch a stream right away. No hassle. Doesn't matter kind of what fast your computer is, it will work. No downloads required. At the same time, a publisher of esports content like we were had an opportunity to, without getting into the nitty-gritties of how Windows and Microsoft will support their goddamn technology and maybe get it working 5 years from now, to scale broadcast. Twitch and YouTube helped us to scale the viewership and make esports accessible to a very wide audience. This was the second of the factors that made esports so successful. And the last one is the one that is the most important one of all of them. The millennials. The millennials are a target group that most of you, I think all the fingers should go up now, so I'm not even asking. The young audience that grows up with digital devices, right? That are born approximately 1995 and later. That's what Wikipedia says. I think Wikipedia says 1998. All of these people grow up with, like you see there, texting, smartphones, kind of computer games. It's what they grew up with. So it's very likely that a person would actually come in touch with a computer game that we play in sports, then he would probably ever get to know about Ronaldo. It's highly likely, actually. So this is the audience that has been driving our growth, particularly now. And if you now, once again, look at what I did before, we actually, somehow, I was just the biggest geek around 15 years ago. I was the only one who was really kind of using all this technology already and left computer games and was watching that, while the broad audience in society was not there yet. So I had to wait for 10 years for every new generation that grows up to grow up with computer games the way that I would do as an exception at the time. And all of a sudden, the predominant part of that young audience is fans of esports. Now, what does that translate into? It translates into what has just been shown, an article in the New York Times that actually realized, oh, fuck, what is happening? Like, this is a real sport, right? All these young people are now spending their time on stuff that we think is somehow weird. Like, what was that game where they kind of shoot people and there's noises of people kind of driving around with tanks? What's that about? The Financial Times has recognized that's one of our events here in the Frankfurt Commerzbank Arena. They've done a kind of, I think, a 6-pager even. Should have brought that physical copy for you. So the company that I built, Turtle Entertainment, developed into a company that's now the global market leader in esports. We're a company that is operating offices in the entire world, in America, in Europe, in Asia, with production offices, with production capacity, studio space, staff in all those locations who make happen what you will see in pictures now. We tripled our revenues the last 3 years. We are a well-profitable company in the meantime, which particularly happened in the last 5 years. And we have reached the size of about 400 employees now in the group, growing at about, I think, 20 a month right now. And we have just sold the majority, letting out the investors that have joined our journey and had a very good return on their kind of bet that they have placed. When we sold the majority of the company to the Swedish Modern Times Group, a very sports-focused media group, at a valuation of higher than $140 million US. So this is where we came, and to put this in pictures, just so you relate to what I showed you before, this is the Cologne LAN Access Arena. I've been there 15 years ago. I thought it's going to look that way. It didn't happen for 15 years. Just 3 weeks ago, that is how it looked like. Do I think I spent a long time to get there? No. It was a great ride. I learned a lot, and we're capitalizing on that big time. Does it feel rewarding? Absolutely. Does it feel rewarding for the people that are sitting there? You bet. This is about 10,000 people now in that stadium that all bought an entrance ticket to get there. I will give you some more numbers later. This is kind of a view from the kind of stage. This is when the players move into the stadium, between their fans. This is a Brazilian team. 8 teams participated on that event that are kind of looking forward to their next match. This here is the players sitting at their screens having just won a match. They're fighting for $250,000 US on that single event. This is a fan. I love this picture. It's a fan of the team Fnatic. That's the name of the team. The teams in esports, just for context, they don't have regional kind of impact. They're global, mostly. Like a team like Fnatic has a fan base around all Europe, lots in the US. The players are from all over Europe, some from Asia, but they have a huge fan base and following. This is the Polish fan corner. One of the teams is Counter-Strike teams entirely from Poland. This is the fan corner where all the Polish fans gathered. You know all these pictures, right? I just want to tell you, like, this is sports. So, this is the winner ceremony. Yeah, I think we did a good job in celebrating. So, to underline that with video,
Hello, Cologne! Hello, Alexis! Here we are. Here we are. I would tell you right now, everyone who's here, the 10,000 people crammed into this stadium, I would say the words, you are here for ESL One, but you know that. People watching at home know that as well, because you're here, you're watching. It's on the screens above me right now. What you might not know, and this is not empty hype, that this is the biggest CSGO event of all time! Oh yes! Are you ready to meet the team?
that was the Lanxess Arena again, in some pictures. Thank you. Once again, some statistics on that event. 27 million unique viewers on that weekend watching that event over the internet, live, in total. 2 million on a concurrent basis. 2 million people watching the event at the same time in high definition on our internet broadcast. 15,000 visitors in total that bought a ticket for that event on that weekend. And I think we had 5 VIP lounges sold. That, for me at least, was a kind of unforgettable number at this event. Teams in total 8, prize money $250,000 US. Turns out I was always right, just 2 years too early maybe. Pretty much all of what we tried works right now. This dream has become reality. Some more numbers for you guys. Like, this is audience growth in kind of esports audience and fans and enthusiasts over time. So we're right now kind of at about 300 here. So we're going into 300 up to 2017. This is the numbers that we see reflected when we look at the audience, the participation. This is a growing sport. We have put that in context with some major American sports like ice hockey or American football, where today we're close to ice hockey, and we will be reaching the American football kind of size in audience pretty soon. But there is no stopping to this. And you remember why, right? This is all the new generations that are growing up with computer games in the first place, and that will not go away. It's not going to change. Esports, in my eyes, are greater than traditional sports. And some of you will hate me for saying that, right? Why is that? For number one, esports is a sport that evolves over time. How many things have changed in soccer, in American football, in basketball, in rules and the way that the sport works in the last, let me just say, decades? Like that much? How much changes with esports games? A game like Counter-Strike is now 14 years old. It's the second biggest esports game out there. That game has reinvented itself pretty much 4 times now, and it's growing in size all the time. Because for the audience that is playing these games and that are watching the games, a change on the sport that they love is something that adds to the storyline. Storyline is what people want to see. They want to see entertainment when it comes to sports. But that is not only about players. Of course, they are kind of the predominant part. It is also about the game themselves that they are playing. Now, in traditional sports, I don't see sports changing much. I see new sports coming up that are never making it mainstream, but I see the same sports played the same way with just different people all the time. That is much different in esports. It's much more exciting because rules are evolving. They're changing, and that is extremely entertaining for the audience to watch and to see. Games have a significantly higher strategic depth and thereby story. Another provocative statement. How big is the strategic depth in soccer? I mean, I'm sure there's no quantification now in numbers, I can tell you that the strategic depths, the choices to be made, the lineups to be formed, the strategies to be kind of unfolded in League of Legends, the biggest esports game out in the world right now, is kind of 5,000, 10,000 times bigger than the strategies that you can unfold in soccer. The kind of variety and the intellectual challenge on these games is a number 10,000 times higher than in any traditional sport. This is what drives the young audience. Video games are highly accessible and are a participatory sport. How easy is it for me, if I want to just have a competitive experience, now having kids making it somehow even more challenging, I can't just go next door and play soccer, living in Berlin. That's just not that easy, right? So if I want to have adrenaline in the evening, ad hoc, how's that working? How can I follow my passion easily? I can't. That is totally different with games. Each of you has a smartphone in front of you, a computer at home, maybe a console at home. There's the sport that you love. So you can not only follow your fans, but you can engage in the sport pretty much at any time when you want. That is not possible with soccer or football. That is not possible with Formula One for sure. This is sports that people get engaged into by playing them all themselves. The rate of participation in these sports is over 80%. 80% of the audience that loves these sports are playing these games. It's transparent, and Kim will elaborate more on that. There is a very deep tie in between the people that are playing this sport and following this sport and the people who develop these sports. These people are communicating in real time with each other. You can't do, and you wouldn't do, as a company like Turtle Entertainment or ESL, or a publisher like Riot Games who publishes League of Legends and makes about 1.2 billion a year with that game, you can't just lie to your audience. You can't just take money away from them without telling them before. They want transparency, otherwise they won't play their game. They won't play your game. That is another, I think, opportunity and greatness about esports and a challenge for traditional sports. Common misconceptions, and I'm coming to a close here soon. So what's the misconceptions when we look at esports? Esports are not sports video games. What you have seen, the pictures, the videos, that was not FIFA 2015 or 2016, right? Which is a beautiful game, by the way, and it's competitive. But esports are those games that are not a copy of a real sport. Because the guy who is playing FIFA 2016, at the end, he will always be just a poor copy of the guy who's really playing the soccer, right? Now, how exciting is that? The games that they play, League of Legends, Dota, they are the originals, and they are the ones that they're not a copy of somebody else. They're original, they're authentic. And FIFA 2015, by being a copy of the real sport, doesn't have strategic depth. So, these computer games that you have not seen in the first place, League, Dota, Counter-Strike, these are the games that really matter. They are esports, and they drive the big audiences. A Tier 1 esports game has a lifetime of 10 years. Tier 1 is kind of the biggest esports games out there. That's about 5 right now in the market, all of them with tens of millions of active players. They have a lifetime of more than 10 years. They will live for a very, very long time and maybe get a complete rehaul then. They will not be sold for 2 years. Esports is not a discipline, it's not another sport, it's a next generation sport. It's a cultural phenomena. It's something more than just like, okay, we have now, I don't know, female boxing. It's something that's entirely new universe to sports. Esports is not a one-trick pony. Like, this is not like MTV. This is not like 10 years of somebody like, yeah, we're the music generation, we watch music videos, MTV is the thing. Like 10 years later, who knows MTV, right? So this is not a one-trick pony. This is not going to go away. This is going to keep you busy in 10, 20, 30 years from now, even bigger than where it is today. Last but not least, sorry, because you said it, I forgot that point. Another misconception is esports is not an Asian thing. The Asians are very technology-affine. South Korea in particular had lots of circumstances why esports flourished a lot in that country, but esports is not in a way limited or originating or kind of being more influential in Asia than it is in Europe, in the US. What I'm saying here is what's next? What are we heading to? Like some big pictures. And I think I'm done then. We will go to traditional TV. We will go to the NBCs, to the big TV stations in Europe. What is that? ProSieben will see us, RTL will see us. So you will see us there. Is that important for us? No. Our audience is actually not there anymore. And that graph is so wonderful. I found that in the Wall Street Journal. That's like a slap in the face for a TV station when it comes to young audience, right? Not that I particularly like that somebody gets slapped, but like, we don't find our audience anymore on TV. These people are dropping out. We get them already on the channels that we are addressing. That's actually important for us while we go to TV, is because some of the kind of big sponsors, big brands, they still only rely on TV to convey their message and promote their kind of products in the first place. So that's why we kind of are expanding to that also. Second, we will fill more stadiums more often. Fortunately, lots of people build lots of Olympic stadiums for no reason. They're all empty. We get these stadiums actually for pretty cheap. And that's pretty cool. So we will go in more of these stadiums. We'll fill them more often with more people. Right now, we're filling a stadium in average with 10,000, 15,000 people every 1 month. In 3 years from now, that's probably going to be 30, 40 times that we fill a stadium a year anywhere in the world. And guess what it will look like in 10 years from now? Touch, so this is what you all have here. Touch is like iPads, iPhones, Android phones, Android tablets is the next esports platform coming in. You can play competitively on these devices. It's beautiful, actually. One of the games that you probably know, Hearthstone. Anybody knows Hearthstone, card battle game? One at least. Hearthstone is a beautiful card game, too. Beautiful card game on your touch device. It's esports. It's the third biggest content consumed on Twitch. Beautiful to follow. Big stars, super smart players. In a way, a little analogous to poker. Touch devices are moving in, huge audience, adding on top to what we have already. Last but not least, and that's 4 or 5 years out from now, virtual reality is going to come. It's going to be extremely disruptive and extremely exciting. And guess what? People will not sit on their computers anymore on the stage. You will see people with VR helmets, and what they will do on stages, they will move physically. Move, shot, evade. This is what will happen. Physical body motion with VR will be connected in a computer game experience and be esports. And that will actually get more physical movement and more physical exercise back to sports games and converge. Super exciting. Gonna happen in 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now. Having that said, I think I'm done. I'm gonna leave you with this video here to say goodbye. I hope you enjoyed that. It was a video from Frankfurt and Katowice. Some last impressions, and then we're gonna continue to talk.